Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. This is episode 625 of Cognitive Dissonance. I think.
Yeah, 625. Yeah. I didn't call it up, so.
That's all right. I'm winging it, buddy.
I think that's
I'm winging it.
That's what's on the notes. I'm not saying that's right.
I'm not saying it's right. I made the notes.
I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's what's on the notes.
I'm not.
So
I have a story to tell you.
All right, I want to hear your
funny story. So Haley and I the other day, a couple of weeks ago, I meant to tell you when it happened. It's just another your typical Tom story. So a couple of weeks ago, Haley and I had a meeting. We're thinking about having a house built. We had a meeting with the guy that is showing you this stuff. And so we're in this room. We're talking some stuff through, and it's time to go. And it's this like model house, right? So you're in this model house, and they've got an office within the model house,
right,
that you meet and you talk about stuff, and you decide whether you're going to do something. And so we're talking to this guy, and it's time to go. And I walk up to the door of this brand new house, right? It's brand new. It's their model house.
Sure, no, it's their model, yeah.
And I reach out, and I grab the handle, and it's one of those like latchy handles. It's not a twisty.
Sure,
it's a latchy.
Yeah.
And I reach out, I grab the handle, and I turn the handle, I push it down, and I hear this like grinding, cracking sound.
Huh, that's weird.
And I turn to him, and then the handle doesn't,
Sure, it doesn't work now. Now you broke it.
It's fucking broken.
And he's like, that's not the door outside.
And it was the door outside, but he had locked the door. And he didn't say anything.
So you broke a locked door?
Well, a little. Yes, I did. I had to go through a different door.
You broke the fuck out of it.
But it's like, why would you lock me in this room? And then I just thought it was Stuckers. I don't know. I swear I didn't push it that hard.
You didn't do it that hard.
I didn't. But I did break his house. Like I did. So this was like 3. So
did he bill you?
He did not. He did not bill me, but it was embarrassing. Sure. So I was like,
for him, stupid lame door.
I was like, and I did. I was joking. I was like, well, you gotta fucking build better doors than this, like.
Gosh,
this lock won't even.
You know what you do though? Don't buy the house, but once they build them, just walk into everybody and just break
the doors.
Break into everybody's house because they can't keep you out.
Well, actually, that's the thing.
No one can stop you from walking into their house. You're like the sheriff or whatever. You can just walk in wherever you want. You just you're like Robin Hood.
Well, the thing
except for just keep everything. Don't give it to everybody.
It was the opposite actually because it I couldn't open the door. I just broke his door. It's still fucking shut and locked.
Oh, I see. So it's still shut and locked. You're just standing there with like a piece in your hand?
I just broke it. And so then it was broken. So then I actually had to met with him again yesterday and walked in. The first thing I'm like, all right, so what's the door handle situation? And he's like, we had it fixed after the last time you were here.
Did you upgrade it? Look, you want to get a tier 4 door.
I can't go with this fucking tier 1 shit.
You want the tier 1 door because I can literally break it
at the drop of a hat.
It's like I'm in a gingerbread house over here. What is the door handle made of gumdrops? What's happening? That's amazing.
It was so fucking hilarious.
It reminds me of the story of you when you were we were downtown and the door was acting up. And you had to I pressed the button and it let me in, but it kind of dragged a little. And so I wiggled it and it started to go. And I went upstairs. And then you came upstairs and didn't say anything. And then when we were leaving, the door was wide open. I'm like, oh, somebody broke the door. And you're like, I might have done that. You just walked in. It was like, brunk, and you just pulled it. And
the door was stuck.
You essentially broke it.
Yeah, I did break it.
You did break it. You 100% broke it.
Do you remember when we were in Grand Rapids in Michigan and we were in that bar?
Yeah.
And the lady who was opening the bar, the bartender or the whatever she was, she opened. We were the first persons to walk in, and she looked at me and there was a sign above the door. It said, it was the open sign or whatever, but it was a sign that had a string hanging from it, and the string is attached to a chain. You pull the chain, it turns on the little electric switch.
It was like a neon light or something.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, would you mind flipping the switch for me?" And I just reached up and I grabbed the thing, and I didn't feel it click. I don't know why I did this. I still don't know why I did this, but I reached up and I grabbed it and I just pulled it. I pulled the whole chain right out of the sign or whatever.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And she just was like, "Why did you do that?" She looked at me like I was such an asshole.
You reached up and you pulled it and you didn't stop. And I was like, no, people normally stop afterwards. But you're like, no, I
don't know.
I kept going. I just kept going.
I guess I thought I was going to feel it click differently or so. I don't know what's wrong with me. Every once in a while, I'm just like, it broke. And it's just like, well, yeah, idiot.
Yeah,
like,
it broke. It broke by you breaking it.
It broke.
It broke by you breaking it, for sure.
If you come to my kitchen, you've been like, all of my utensils have to be solid wood or solid metal because all the like hybrid utensils, even like spatulas, I'll just break them.
Snap them.
I don't know why. Every once in a while, I'm just like, no, it's broken. And it's like, well, yeah, you applied too much force, body.
You have no tactile sense.
I don't. It's like there's no proprioception at all.
You're like that kid who doesn't feel, so they walk real hard and break their legs. Like you're that kid.
I will say, too, like I hold my wife's hand a lot in the car. So like we'll drive and I'll like just be like holding her hand. And like I'll be stressed about something and not even thinking about it. She'll be like, ow. And I'll be like, what? And I won't even know, see. So I'll be like,
Jesus Christ.
What? And she's like, you're squeezing my hand. And I was just like, that probably wasn't true.
Yikes.
You know, like,
yikes. She's going to pull back a stump one day.
All right. So this story comes from Joe.My.God. Lawsuit. Tennessee ex-cop forcibly baptized woman after pulling her over to search for drugs. So what's funny is I remember when we first covered this in 2019. Do you remember this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I thought this was a great follow-up, and I want to read some parts from it. So a U.S. District Court judge gave the go-ahead to a lawsuit against a former Hamilton County deputy accused of baptizing a woman against her will after a 2019 traffic stop. So this lady gets pulled over by this fucking lunatic, and he's like, he finds like some marijuana.
Sure, yeah.
And then he's like, well, listen, I'll just like kind of let it go or give you a ticket or reduce the charges or whatever it is.
Right.
If you let me baptize you. And that's fucking weird. But then he like calls a deputy buddy of his to film it. And the part of the story that like the reason because we covered this in 19, so I almost didn't cover this. But the part of the story that makes me crazy is the judge dismisses the lawsuit against the guy that this fucking lunatic, who by the way has like 1 million like fucking beating people up charges against him.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, this guy has like, if you in the full article, the guy who like baptized, he's been arrested. He's like being arraigned. He's like been kicked off the force. He's just an abusive guy. He's like a what do they call it? Use of force.
A cop?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
yeah. He's just a piece of shit authoritarian fucking bootlicker like all the rest of these assholes. But yeah, he calls his buddy and she's trying to file suit against his buddy who filmed this shit because it's fucking egregious.
Right.
And the cop's like, yeah, qualified immunity. It's fine. The lawsuit can't go through because that other guy still has qualified immunity. So the lawsuit goes through against the first guy.
The first guy.
Yeah, because it's a violation of her civil rights because it was religious. But if he had done something else, the lawsuit would probably not have gone through. And we know that because the lawsuit against the guy who filmed it, which is aiding and abetting it, right?
Weird.
Which is weird.
Too, by
That's
the way.
super weird.
Can we just talk for a second about this particular thing about baptizing?
Yeah.
You know, like the baptize. Like, is there a way to make your religion weirder? And the answer is yes. You know, like your religion's already weird.
So weird.
Your religion is already very strange about the blood of Christ, and you got to be dipped in the tears of Christ or whatever to like blow those off of you, and then you're holy. And, you know, you could say, I'm sorry after you murder somebody, and it's totally fine or whatever, right? So there's all these really weird, crazy things about your religion as it is. But now you're making it coercive.
Right.
And it's just super strange. Like, it's super creepy.
Yeah, man. There's so much that's fucking just insanely. Religion is super weird. And it gets like, as time goes by and you look at these like bizarro traditions like baptism, and you're like, oh, yeah, well, like depending on like which flavor of Christianity you happen to want to imbibe, like it's either this, you know, ritual at birth or near birth, or it's this thing you take on when you're reborn, and it's this washing away, and it's like, here's this story, this parable about Jesus getting his sins washed away, and you're like, man, all that sounds crazy in a world where like there's space shuttles.
Yeah.
Like none of that, all that sounds like it's insane to be like, well, you got to cut your foreskin off. Also, there's a rover on Mars.
I feel the same
and you're
way.
like, what is happening? What?
So I I love Christmas,
Yeah.
Christmas time, Christmas in general. I love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
And I love Christmas music that's religious. I love the choral,
Do you really? You like the,
the choruses and all that. I think it's awesome. One of my favorite stations at that time of year is the Mormon Tabernacle Choir has an entire choir arrangement that sings these songs with an orchestra.
Okay.
And I love it. I think it's awesome.
like some
I think
of
it's
them.
great. It's great. The songs
Yeah.
are fucking crazy, man. They're all like, he's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, the King of Kings, the Jew of Jews. And you're just like, what is happening, man? But it's all just nuts. It's all just the kookiest shit you could possibly imagine. It's like a fucking bedtime story, and they're singing it to you. If you listen to it for half a second, you just immediately get pulled out of it. I'm like, this is the craziest shit I've ever heard in my entire life. But it's like the churches or whatever. Like, you can appreciate the beauty of it, right? The arrangement and the skill that it takes these people to do it.
Yeah, and then there's all that tradition associated with it.
Yeah, you can appreciate it. But at the same time, when you think about the story and the actual things behind it, it's fucking nuts, man.
And as time goes on, it seems crazier rather than less crazy.
Right.
And it's if you divorce, because at this point I've become completely divorced from any connection to it emotionally, that I've ever had. And so now it really is the same arm's length kind of storytelling as any other story, right?
Right.
And so when you hear it, it's like, well, yeah, I wanted to baptize. I pulled this woman over on the side of the road, and she had these dirty, sinful marijuana cigarettes. And so I called my buddy.
Which are legal in like 10 states, by the way.
Right, yeah. And incidentally, she was hiding one of them in nature's pocket, so that made me laugh. That in the story,
she had a crotch roach?
She did.
Oh, yep. That's like an earwig.
That's so and then I called my buddy, and then we were like, we're totally gonna wash her away of her sins, and we're gonna use the laziest washing metaphor ever, which is baptism.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, oh, fucking, this is so. If God was real, he didn't invent a story that was like not fucking lazy.
We should get baptized.
We want to get baptized?
We should get baptized somewhere.
We should go someplace.
We should go somewhere.
We should get baptized in a bunch of different places. Can we get Mormon baptized too?
We should go somewhere far away where nobody knows us. Join their church, and then be like, we really just want to get baptized.
I wonder how fast we could get baptized.
Oh, see how quick you could get baptized in all religions?
Yes. How many religions save people, and how many religions can we get saved in?
How many can you do? Right?
Oh.
Like, how many can you jump? I want to get baptized in Greg Locke's church.
Dude, I'm converting to Judaism.
I want to get baptized.
I'm going to learn that shit. I'm already circumcised.
Right. Thank God you're already cut. Because the initiation process
it's a little rough.
Woofda.
Ooh.
There's less initiation to like prison gangs than like becoming Jewish if you're not snipped, man.
Oh, I had a funny. So this week, I'm listening to this book. I can't remember the author's name. It's Yuval something or other. Homo Deus is the book. He's the same guy who wrote *Sapiens*, which is like a big book. Yeah. So I'm listening to this Homo Deus book, and incidentally, it's a big long ass book, so it's a long fucking read. And I also find it absolutely one of the most unsettlingly depressing things I've ever read. Like, I am just like, I'll listen to it, Cecil, for 45 minutes, and I'll turn it off. And I'm just
what's it about?
Man, it's another one of these like social psychological history books that like tells and so this one is about like, look, here's the general trajectory of the human species, and here's what we really like. Here's some things that are true about how we as people act and work and think, and if these things are true, here's what is likely to be true next, right? So. And there's a chapter that I've been trying to listen to for a week, which is about really the rise of the algorithm and how here's how algorithms work. Here's what they've accomplished so far. Here's likely what they will be able to do in 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. And here's what they're likely to be able to do by, say, 2033. And you're like, oh, my God, it's up. Like, I have to turn it off. And like, then I go like, jerk off to Requiem for a Dream just to feel happy again, you know? Like, it's bad, dude. It's bad. Like it hits a spot in me that I'm like, one I recognize I'm emotionally sensitive and sympathetic to.
Sure.
So like I listen to it, I'm just like, oh God, like the death of art and culture and all of humanity.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but like there is a part where he's talking about religion. And I thought about circumcision when he was talking about it, because he's like, look, all religions do the same thing, is they create this in-group experience by making certain things that are pleasurable unpleasant. And then as you buy into them and as you've done them for a while, essentially what he's describing is a sunk cost fallacy begins to settle in, right? Which is like, well, I didn't cut my fucking dick skin off for nothing. Like what I cut my dick skin off for is so I could be buddies with other guys that had their dick skin cut off with, right?
So I guess I never thought about religion as a sunk cost fallacy.
So it makes you give up all the. I thought about Lent this week, right? So it's Lent right now, and I had dinner with a bunch of work people, and a lot of them were religious and Catholic, and so they were talking about what they'd given up for Lent.
I see,
and that's always weird because then, like, I've got to be real quiet, and it feels conspicuously quiet,
Yeah.
And they're all talking about giving stuff up for Lent. And I thought of the same example. And I thought, of course you have to ritualistically and repeatedly give something up.
Right.
It's unpleasant. And the unpleasantness reinforces that it has to be true. Otherwise, why would I have given up chocolate?
I wouldn't do this if it wasn't real.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
So it really just shows you how you just have to keep reinforcing and keep. Like, I got to tithe every week. Why do I have to tithe every week? Well, one, because the church gets paid, and of course they're the guys that wrote the fucking book, but also, God, I gave away 10% of my income for nothing?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't true.
For how long, right? For how long of your life? And then the more you give, the more you think.
The more you just locked in.
Yeah, right.
And there's so many little pieces of that.
Sure.
So I just thought it was kind of an interesting aside.
No, that's interesting. I guess I never thought of it like that, but that's a really interesting way to look at it.
It is. This story comes from Americans United. I grabbed this story, Cecil, because we've been here, buddy.
Been to the Ark Park, my bud.
6 years later, a Creationist theme park is not paying off for Kentucky. The other thing I thought is we went here 6 years ago.
Yeah, we went there when it was pretty
It was brand new.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 6. I think it was 5. I think it was 5 years ago. It was up for about a year.
Yeah, 5. When was that? Because
5 years ago was 2016.
It would be 2017, right?
Yeah, 2000, maybe late 2016.
It had to be
September,
16. Yeah,
16.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
So this was fairly new.
Yeah.
And man, it wasn't hard to get a fucking parking spot.
No, it was wide open.
It was easy to get a parking spot.
We didn't walk very far to get in. That's
I know.
For damn sure.
I'll tell you what, if they open a fucking, Six Flags.
Oh, I know.
They open that fucker up.
They open a Krispy Kreme. You can't get donuts for 3 weeks. There's lines around the clock. That's fried dough, man.
I know.
This is your eternal salvation with a fucking life-size, actual cubit-sized ark. And these guys are the one thing that is crazy about this is there's people who are they're ark watchers, right?
Yes.
What they do is they just pay attention to what's happening with this stupid fucking park, and they report on it throughout the whole time.
They love hating this thing.
They love hating on it.
Yeah.
It's awesome, right?
It is, because it's awesome. It's very easy to hate.
It's very easy to hate it because the guy's an absolute douche, right? Ken Ham's an absolute douche. If you don't know who Ken Ham is, his organization is called Answers in Genesis, and he's the one who years ago, if you don't remember, he's the guy years ago who debated Bill Nye. I don't know if you remember this. Yeah. Ken Ham versus Bill Nye. I can't quite remember exactly what they debated on. I thought maybe it was climate change, but I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
To be honest, I don't remember.
It wasn't the existence of God?
I don't think so. Maybe it was intelligent design or climate change. I can't remember which one it was. Someone will correct. Someone will send me the full thing.
Someone is into this.
Someone knows. I don't remember. Those aren't my favorite things anyway, right? I know a lot of people love the
debates,
debating that person and killing them with facts and knowledge. That's not my favorite shit. I don't really like that.
The debates were big in new atheism for a while.
Early on for me, I watched a few of them, but I stopped relatively quickly because for me, it's like once I'm here, I don't need to hear over and over again why I don't believe it. I'm okay.
I listened to many dozens of them.
Yeah.
Many dozens.
I maybe listened to about 4.
Oh.
Yeah.
I listened to many dozens of them.
Yeah. I've listened to the big ones or whatever, but other than that, I've never really done it. But in any case, that's who Ken Ham is. one of these master debaters, right? So of course you know who he is, and
he'll never admit it.
He's got this crazy fucking nutcase park down there that is a life size. He says it's like an actual sized ark or whatever. Sure.
Hey,
and no, it is.
Sure, it is.
It is. Sure, it is. You know, if you're just using your imagination, sure, it's as big as you think it should be. Whatever. And inside it are creatures that never existed, or a whole bunch of empty cages with bird sounds behind them. They have a poop shovel in there to tell you they actually had to shovel poop. And then there's there's just insanity throughout the entire thing, and it's connected by ramps so that even like
Kentuckians can get through it.
Well, even people who will get, they want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone. And actually, to be honest, the ramps don't make it accessible. The ramps are
ramps are super steep, and the corners are really sharp.
There's like corners, and it feels like you would need a go-kart, not like a scooter thing, to get up and down on.
Now I want to ride a go-kart.
Oh God.
I want to ride a go-kart with one of those like cow catchers on it and just like knock people out of the way.
But that's what the place is. And I remember when we were there was one part that there was this huge line for. It was like this huge line. It was like round the fucking corner, around the country.
And we thought it was going to be something amazing.
I was like, okay, this is where like the showbiz pizza part is, right? Where there's going to be an animatronic devil eating like humans or whatever. You come around the corner, and it was just like, I don't even think it was like a diorama. I think it was just like some bad paintings.
Yeah, I remember it was like hell, like it was hellfire stuff or something like that, or like the end of worlds,
or when Eden, or when
the destruction of shit
or something.
It was like the part that everybody, like the part that created the fucking train wreck, like backup though, was the part of human misery and suffering.
Yeah, that's the thing that everybody stopped at.
Right. That's the part everybody is like fucking. Yeah, rubberneck.
When we stopped there too, and we were just like, why are people looking at this? This is worthless. It wasn't even good human suffering.
It wasn't even interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, this was not like the combined works of Hieronymus Bosch, right? Like it was, you're just like looking at it and you're like, yeah, man, like when I was a kid, I put my fucking G.I. Joes in a fucking shoebox once too. Like who fucking cares?
It's terrible.
Who cares?
But this park is something that people like to pay attention to.
Yes.
And they like to pay attention to it. They'd like to pay attention to its numbers, how it's doing. It's not doing well.
It's not doing well at all.
It's constantly going down. Fewer and fewer people are showing up. They like to pay attention to what their hiring practices are, and their hiring practices include some very strict, codes that you have to live by. Like you have to have like
you gotta like sign off that you're not gonna like jerk off or like love anybody that's the wrong shape or whatever.
Yeah, or shade or something. Right. I don't know. But in any case, they have this really strict code of ethics that you have to follow. And the other thing too that they like to point out is that how much money it's getting in tax breaks and from different, and things around it are being improved, even though there's no tourism business coming in from this fucking Ark Park.
Yeah, and like you got to understand where this is at. It's in the middle of nowhere.
It's not anywhere.
We stayed in Kentucky. We stayed in Louisville.
Yeah,
and then we had to drive like a good distance, a serious distance.
Yeah,
and as I remember, you drive down a nothing dirt style, like gravelly nothing road. It's just trees and woods all around, and then there's a big giant parking lot, but the parking lot wasn't like
it wasn't full,
paved big. This was just like kind of like a fairgrounds kind of a feel to it.
Yep.
And then there's the fucking Ark, and the Ark is goddamn enormous.
It's big. Yeah,
but it's in the middle of fucking nowhere, and there's nobody that wants to work there, and there's nobody that's going there. And the thing is, the taxpayers paid for it.
Yeah.
That's the reason I think that so many people have such a big bug up their ass about it.
Sure.
It's like
if that's your money, who cares, right? Like, yeah. But if you make money through tax breaks, if you're getting money through like junk bonds and all this stuff, and then they're like taxing people around you and giving you them, like that's shitty.
Yeah, to the tune of like tens of millions of dollars,
and then they're
in an area that clearly does not have tens of millions of extra dollars.
Well, and then they are going out of their way to improve the roadways to improve traffic, but you don't need it, right?
We did not run into traffic.
No, there wasn't any traffic,
and we were there, like I said, the first year.
Yeah.
So things are exciting their first year. After a while, it's like, want to go back to the Ark Park? Like, why?
No.
To look at a cage that doesn't have a bird in it?
And then
I could get one of those at Goodwill. There's cages that don't have birds in them at Goodwill.
I imagine, too, that the most times that people go are when there's a protest, because I know atheists go there once in a while to protest. They probably get their most business then.
Right, yeah, I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. I will say, the Ark Park is worth a laugh.
Yeah.
And it is difficult, if not impossible, for somebody with a rational mindset to go to the Ark Park and not fall over laughing. You can't do it.
It's the stupidest
because we
thing.
tried not to.
We were trying to be.
We were trying to be
nice.
polite and respectful.
But there was several times where we stopped and we're just like, "What the fuck? Holy shit!" You know, they have stuff on the wall where it's like, and everybody died, but 8 of them or something.
Yeah, and and they're just like proud of it.
They're happy.
Everyone, including the animals, and you're like
baby animals,
like all the kittens but one are dead. And you're like, really? This is what you're jerking off to?
This is your fantasy story,
right?
It's terrifying.
You're the worst.
Yeah. This is another one of those. When you say it out loud, it's fucking nuts. You're a crazy person if you believe this.
I was thinking about this for some reason. I was thinking about this today at the grocery store of all places. I was thinking, like, if you read a religious text or rule or whatever, and it conflicts with your personal values, how do you, and I mean this, like, how do you reconcile this? And I was thinking, like, so many religious texts are just full of, like, I mean, honest, genuinely monstrous shit.
Sure.
But religious people aren't filled with generally monstrous values.
No.
And so, and I know that some of them are unaware of them, because a lot of people are illiterate with respect to their, the text, their holy text. Most people haven't read it.
Sure.
But there are a lot of people who have. And so I know that there are a lot of techniques to sort of match the two. Like, and cognitive dissonance is one of them, where you just sort of like say, well, that's true and this is true. And
that makes me feel weird.
So I lock them both away in separate closets.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about that today, and I was like, if you were approached with religion after you had already established a set of secular morals, and somebody said, okay, well, I want to introduce you to Christianity, and you'd never heard of it before, and you were always you always had these secular morals, and the morals were basic, everyday, run-of-the-mill ethics, because ethics is not actually day-to-day terribly complicated,
it's not
right? And you're like, okay, well, here's how this is going to work, and then they lay this story out. You would look at them like they were fucking insane. You would literally look at them like they were insane, and you'd be like, your religion is full of like really awful stuff. Like we can't, what?
Yeah.
There's no way you can get there. Like, well, and let me tell you about when everybody dies.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. And you're like, everybody dies?
Can I tell you quickly a story about a guy who's going to kill his son, but then God at the very last minute is like, nah, just fucking with you, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
I do remember what I was thinking about. I was thinking about the story of Easter.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're buying stuff for Easter baskets today. So I was thinking about the story of Easter. And I was thinking, this story is fucking nuts.
Oh yeah, the story of Easter itself is
worst.
Crazy. It's crazy, and it's a blood god wanting a blood sacrifice for and then the rising of the dead and the torture and there's so many pieces of it that are just fucking crazy.
Really insane.
Yes.
And then it's like, well, and then all the gospels don't match, and they don't all tell the same story. And then I think the Gospel of John, there's zombies, like in more than one. But we're just going to ignore that, and we don't tell that part of the story. In fact, the whole story of Easter is actually an amalgamation of the pieces that, like, modern audiences are more sympathetic to, that are sort of combined from 4 different gospels. They're not actually one of the and so, but we'll ignore. But even if you ignore all that stuff, and you're just like, all right, why did that have to happen again? It's like, because everybody's bad.
Everybody's so bad.
Everybody's bad.
So bad.
And you're
they
like,
need something to die.
Right.
But only one of them.
And you're like, well, what if I don't think actually most people I meet are fine.
Yeah. Most people don't do anything that's so bad that someone would need to die for.
Well, that's the thing, is like, most people do anything.
And actually, I can't think of a single thing someone should be able to do. Like, it's a weird moral calculus that you've done.
It is, where it's like, I did something so bad, you have to die for it. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? But also, it's like, most people you meet, like, they just get to say, I'm sorry once in a while, and then everybody
live their life, and that's it. Yeah.
Like, with this idea, like, this grand idea that we all have something to be forgiven for, like, that we're just rotten, shitty people.
That is also one of the messages.
And that's a fucked message, man. It's like, well, we got to do that so that way God can't just forgive everybody. It's like, well, maybe just fucking be a little more understanding.
Yeah. Well, and what it does is what it does is it amplifies things that aren't sins into sins. Right? It just turns those things into, being lustful or whatever is suddenly a sin. And you're like, come on, man. Everybody's lustful in their life.
Well,
like the idea
like,
that's bad is stupid. It's like natural. That's human nature. That's how we fucking like procreate.
That's literally the only, you built this machine and now you're mad at the machine for like needing gas.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do you need gas? I got to kill a different machine because you want gas. And you're like, what kind of story are you telling? Why? Like, why any of this? You can't, I will genuinely challenge you. You can't explain the Easter story to people that are not religious.
No, I don't think you can.
Because my kids aren't religious. And if I were to, I could not.
You can't. I don't know how you do it.
What would you say?
I don't know how you do it.
It's fucking bonkers.
Yeah. But you have to use language like sacrifice and love the world and all this stuff that like you have to buy into in order to believe it.
Right.
But when you turn it into a human did a thing, right? A guy, because I don't believe in divine shit, right? So if you tell me a guy for the rest of the world sacrificed himself, I'm like, how and why?
Yeah, right. Well, see, there's God.
There's a magic. I don't believe in your magic.
And he doesn't like it when people sin.
When you tell me the story like straight away without the magic, it's crazy. Yeah, and then when you add the magic, it's crazier.
That's the thing. The magic makes it worse.
Yeah.
And then all the reasons why things have to happen. I mean, if you just stop and like pull yourself back from like all the indoctrination most of us had around sin, and you just are like, but most people just are fine.
Yeah.
Like
I speed once in a while.
That's what I mean. It's like, well, yeah, I told a white lie to like get out of work on a Tuesday. Whoa, well, I gotta kill a guy to make that right. And you're like, well, maybe you don't.
I cut in line at the grocery store. The lady clearly looked at the other woman, and I was like, I'm next. And I walked forward. I should go to hell for that.
What are you fucking talking about? It's like it's almost Easter, and it's just like. It's like, well, I saw somebody's watch and it was nice and I thought I would like that watch. Now you have to kill your son. Magic Sky. Otherwise, you'll never be able to forgive me for liking a watch.
Yeah, man.
What are you fucking talking about? That makes no sense.
It's all nuts.
This story comes from Only Sky. Christian evangelist Kenneth Copeland is still spreading lies about COVID.
Okay, so when this story is reflecting on old things too.
Yep.
And we're gonna watch the old things
because so great.
Because here's the thing, Tom.
Yeah.
When this came out, you and I had shifted gears.
Yes.
So when COVID first hit, we decided, you know what?
That's a little heavy.
Well, not only is it a little heavy, but it's literally the only thing to talk about.
Right.
Everybody was either COVID denier, or there was religious people talking about COVID, or it was in the news, or it was in politics. Whatever it was, whatever we covered on this show
was just COVID.
Just COVID because there was no other news at that point. So we just decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do goofy stories for a little while.
Yep.
We're just going to have fun. We
did Man Bites Dog for like a year.
Yeah, we did all the goofiest, shitty, weirdest stories we could find, and we had fun doing it.
Honestly, it was a great year.
Right, we skipped this. We did not watch Kenneth Copeland's oily hand, and we need to watch Kenneth Copeland's oily hand because we never did when it happened.
It's true.
So we're going to watch it now. This is Kenneth Copeland. Now, this is on Twitter. I got to pause it here for a second. And all you people who are listening to this, I'm sure many of you have seen this. I'm sure many of you have seen this already. It's where he's reaching out. He essentially, he's like a shaved hobgoblin. Like the guy 100% looks like, he genuinely looks like the devil put on some human makeup. Yeah. That's what he looks like to me. He does not look like a human being. No. He looks like a caricature of an evil person.
Yes.
He 100% does. He has all the craziest features, and his hand is glistening from oil. So that's what you're going to see I don't know if he was just fisting somebody. And if you want to fist somebody with your handful of oil,
head over to adamandeve.com.
adamandeve.com. You type in Glory at checkout. You'll get 50% off almost any item.
Including fisting oils.
It could be fisting oils. Who knows? All right, so here we go. We're going to play this.
Put your hand on that television set.
Yes, Lord.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Jesus.
Okay, so I know
So
the people
weird.
listening.
Guys, this is weird.
I know the people listening hear two voices. There's only one person.
Yeah,
so there's some.
that's true.
Just imagine somebody right now leaning over your shoulder saying these things, because that's what it feels like when you watch it.
And actually, I will also add that from like a technical perspective, you've got to understand how staged this is, right? Because they had to separately mic this person.
Yeah.
That is the call and response guy,
Yeah.
which means that he had to be like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna at 21 minutes 35 seconds, I'm gonna dip my hand in the fucking, palm olive or whatever he's
I'm
got.
gonna fist this chicken, and then I'm gonna come over.
We're gonna do our thing. So I'm gonna be like, hubba jubba jabba, touch your TV, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, get that TV touch. It's so scripted.
Yeah.
You've got to know it's scripted, because otherwise you would not have this level of audio.
It's not just scripted though; it's also like awkwardly scripted. You'll hear it as we go, but there is no second person. So I want to let people know who listening to just audio. There is no second person. It is only a shaved hobgoblin.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. He receive your healing
Yes.
now.
He receives your. So
he receives your healing now?
does Jesus receive my healing?
How does it get to him? In a teller tube?
Did I have to heal? Are his hands whole again?
Does he have Jesus just has like a palm olive bubble there, and he's like, he's blowing bubbles through his hands because he's dipped his hands in oil.
I feel like there's some pronoun confusion right now.
It feels weird. It feels very strange.
He receives your healing.
I also-
Is your Jesus?
I don't know
Is your me?
how any of this works, but I will say this. The dangerous part of all this is happening like March 30th of last year.
Fucking
this
when
is
people are
early.
scared, guys.
This is not last year, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, 2020.
Not March of last year, because March of last year we had a vaccine on the horizon very soon for a lot of people. In fact, many people had already been stuck. This is 2 years ago, March of that year, when they just sort of sent everybody home for a month of don't come to work kind of. And this is when he's doing this. So there's a lot of people now that are terrified of this, and could have been some people who were sick.
And I will add too, Kenneth Copeland's audience is older.
Yeah.
So the most at-risk people who are beginning to understand, and by the end of March, you're beginning to understand that this is a problem which will disproportionately affect older people rather than younger.
Yeah.
So his audience right now is at home and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Emotionally
and that's what he's doing.
Say it, I take it.
I take it.
I have it.
I have it.
It's mine.
It's mine.
Take it. I have it. It's mine.
So that's what I say. I say take it.
Everybody
I
says
have it. It's mine.
Okay, so evidently it's the healing is you're taking it.
If you want to take it for some healing, you can head over to adamandeve.com. Like this is a Marvin Gaye song. It's some sexual healing.
It is.
Take it.
I thank you and praise you for it.
Yes, Lord.
And I forgive if I have aught against any.
I forgive.
If I what?
And I praise you that I'm well and whole.
I praise you that I'm well and whole.
Wait a minute. Is he forgiving me now? I'm genuinely confused. Is he now doing the forgiving? I forgive is Kenneth Copeland, because then the next thing he says, I genuinely don't know if he's the mouth.
I don't know, man. I don't
actually know how
None
this
of it
works.
makes any sense if you're thinking of it from a single perspective. It doesn't make sense.
I think he's two parts in the same play right now. Like this feels like
he's Hamlet and Mercutio.
Yes. This feels like the fucking end of Blood Meridian where you don't know what's going on.
I don't know that they're in the same play.
No, that one of them's Romeo and Juliet.
That's even better.
Yeah.
That's even better.
According to the word of God,
According to the word of God.
I'm healed.
Yes.
And I consider not my own body
Yes.
Wait, but if you consider not, then why did you need to be healed?
Right. Thank you. If I'm not
Feels
worried
like a
about the
waste of
machine,
time. Why are you wasting God's time like this?
Right,
He
I'm
has like
not-
some hound dog brushing to do. Like, what the
Right.
fuck, man? He's a busy boy. He's got like trout fishing, or he's got to fucking get his.
I've been working
straw-
on my taxidermy game.
I've been weaving up this straw hat all day.
Look, man. I made 3 raccoons in a canoe rowing a little boat down the street.
It's adorable. It's adorable taxidermy. You can't buy that at no garage sale now.
Not my own body.
I consider not symptoms in my body,
I consider not symptoms in my
but only that which God has promised.
Only that which God
What does
has
that mean?
Only that what the Word has said.
Only that what the
And
word
by His stripes I was healed, and by His stripes I am healed now. I'm not the sick trying to
They
get
stopped.
healed.
They
I'm
stopped.
the healed, and the devil's trying to give me the flu
That's right.
or whatever else kind of thing he's trying.
Yeah.
I love how Jesus
making it
gives
all
up.
He's making it all as
Just
it goes along,
right
right?
now.
Like
Just no
like
plan.
Anybody that we've ever had on the show that was previously religious that did sort of any of this prophetess bullshit, they can all do this. It's just talking, and it's all the same sort of phrases.
There's
and it's
a
just
linguistic muscle
and then
memory
you
to
put
it.
these
Yeah.
phrases together in an order, and it doesn't even matter what order,
Right.
Because you could just say them these phrases, and everybody in the crowd knows. But it was funny because he started going too fast for the people to sort of respond.
Right.
So the call was just him over and over and over and over again.
Just
And then
repeating
finally, when he got to the end, they're just like, yeah,
Man, this is that like
what you said.
cryptic religious deepity bullshit.
Yeah.
Where it's just a bunch of circular language that you can never pin down and
Right.
say, what the fuck do you what are you actually saying? What do you believe?
Right.
And you're just like, well, I am the body that was healed by the sins of Christ in the amens. And you're like, what are
Okay.
you, what the fuck?
I want you to diagram that sentence right now. I'll give you $100.
It's fucking jabberwocky
It is
bullshit.
It is bullshit. This guy is amazing too. He fucking doesn't he look like the fucking leprechaun?
Yes, he
From
looks
that-
like Leprechaun from the movie
that
Leprechaun.
Leprechaun. He
Yeah.
very much looks like that.
Yeah. God, look at that smile. Do you trust that smile, Cecil?
Amen.
Who's watching this and like,
Hallelujah.
that's a smile I trust. That's a guy I trust. What is wrong in your life that
And
you're like,
so-
that's a dude I trust?
Evidently, he's like days later. This is still from Hemant's article. It says days later, when the prayers failed, Copeland claimed COVID scare would be over soon because they had prayed about it. And so here's what it is. Here's him saying basically that it's going to be over soon. Now this is again days after. This is now maybe April,
Right.
maybe April of 2020. So
2020, yeah.
2020. I just want people to sort of stand for a second and think about how long ago 2020 feels. That's when he said this, right?
That was
In
a long
April.
time.
And suddenly the Lord said this to me, and I jumped up, ran in there, and wrote it down.
I wouldn't want to forget what God
I mean,
said.
yeah.
That kind of shit slips
No,
my
it's
mind.
really important. Yeah.
You know, I've got that
This-
selective hearing thing. Guy won't shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? It's just always like bip, 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 bip. All right, God. All right, King of Kings. All right, omniscient creator of all matter and time itself. I'm
busy.
watching my shows.
I'm busy now. Thank you very much. Jesus. Game of Thrones is on. Thank you.
This disease called CODV-19
CODV.
will be
What is it? CODV?
CODV.
CODV?
Do you
Call
think
of
this is
Duty
intentional?
virus?
The Call of Duty virus. Yeah, that tracks.
All right.
Hey, do you think his like the flu or whatever, the CODV, like he's got that like old man like, let me get out my VDR player, you know, like but I think it's intentional. I don't think he doesn't know what fucking COVID is, right? Like he's not he's a fucking incredibly rich guy. Everything he's doing is staged. He doesn't know how to not pronounce COVID. He doesn't need to read it off his piece of paper.
He's doing it so he could diminish it.
He's exactly.
Yeah, right.
He's being dismissive by being like, I don't
even know what it is. I didn't even get the words in order. Who cares?
My DVCR player is all on pause repeats. or
Gene
whatever.
sequencing? I can't even sequence the letters for this. Are you kidding me?
You got gene sequencing. I got genes in my closet. You know, just get out of here. You fucking Asshole.
No, he doesn't.
Be over much sooner than you think.
Is that Glenn Beck? No. Okay.
Is it?
No. I thought it was a Shorn. I thought it was a Shorn Glenn Beck with him, but it's not.
Called CODV-19.
Like when you give a fluffy dog a bath and a haircut, and all of a sudden they're like smaller and a little ratty
you get
looking.
a cat wet.
Yeah.
It's like, is that the cat I owned earlier?
Can you imagine like Glenn Beck wet? He's just like he's just all shrunken and small. Just a. Whatever happened to Glenn Beck? Is he dead or something?
No, he's still talking.
Is he still doing his
Oh
thing?
God, I saw a clip of him having a conversation with who's that gay guy on Twitter?
Milo Yiannopoulos?
No,
he's not
no.
gay anymore because dogs like him.
No,
now.
he's the gay
Forgot
guy
about
who's
that.
like a traditional liberal or whatever. Classical liberal. He
Oh,
calls
not
himself.
Ben Shapiro. Dave Rubin.
Dave Rubin.
Dave
his name is.
Rubin.
So Dave Rubin married a dude.
Yeah.
And then they adopted kids.
Oh, okay.
2 babies.
All right.
Great.
Sure.
Not great for all the people that he talks to.
I actually saw something. They fucking hate him.
They hate it. They hate it.
They turned on him.
And then they
Big
have
surprise.
to. And then they have to like have a conversation with him where he demeans his own like having of kids and
Jesus.
stuff.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's really terrible.
Oh, God.
It's really. And then
Dave
Glenn
Rubin is
Beck.
garbage.
And Glenn Beck is having one of these conversations. I had to turn it off. I was just like, oh, this is cringy. I can't watch this.
Dave Rubin he's one of those guys that sold out to the right and has been cashing the checks.
Yeah.
But seems to be somehow both aware and surprised by the fact that he is a fucking puppet they hate.
Yeah.
That's all he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that they're able to point to and be like, "Whoa, we like gay guys,
Right.
We like gay guys that hate themselves.
And we like liberals.
We like gay guys that hate themselves publicly. What
Right.
are you, crazy? Of course we like that.
We like liberals as long as they're classic liberals, which isn't actually a meaningful phrase any longer.
Self-hating gays and liberals that aren't liberals, those are our favorite people.
We love them.
They're our favorite.
And people that are willing to cash our checks.
Will be over much sooner than you think.
Okay, it's still
Christian
going.
people all.
Was it? Oh, it's past Omicron. What is it now, Tom? Beta.
Yeah, I think it's BA2, the stealth
BA2,
Omicron.
The stealth Omicron.
Like,
so, yeah.
now Omicron can't be detected on radars. It's a whole fucking thing now.
So it's still going. So we would say still going is what
still
we'd say.
happening.
Still going.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually
all right.
on the increase.
You know,
It's up over 10% on a 14-day average, according to the New York Times.
I will say that we are in a position right now where it's still going, but in God's eyes, that's really a short amount of time.
That's
so when
true.
he says it's a short amount of time, it's a short amount of time.
I like when he says, too, like, it's going to be over sooner than you think. I mean, I actually thought this was going to drag on for a while.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you think? I mean, really? Like, like that's as fucking, like, definitive as God can give me? And God's like, yeah, I know I create all things, including literally this virus.
And I'm just going to look, I'm going to let it go for a bit, but I will stop it.
But you guys, what's going to happen is the right people have to ask me real nice.
And someone has to come up with a vaccine.
Right.
I mean, like, of course, that's got to happen. I mean, don't let's not get crazy.
God help,
You'll
I
still
help
have to
those who help themselves.
You're going to have to social distance. You have to wear a mask.
Right.
And you're probably going to have to get, a lot of you are going to have to get it during Omicron. Like a whole fucking lot of you are going to
Also,
have to get it.
here's the thing. About 1 million Americans have to die, and about 6 million so far across the globe have to die.
Yeah.
But, and then some of you guys are going to, here's the cool thing. Some of you guys are going to get it and never get better, too. Yeah. So there's that part, too.
So got that going.
Anyway, that's a great thing.
Very soon, though.
Any minute now.
All over this country praying have overwhelmed it. Give me all the glory, saith the Spirit of grace. Many and many people will come to know me.
Hold on, he's sitting there, writes it down. He's like, okay, how many many's is that, God? Hold on, I had to write this down. I had to go. You were nagging at me for a half an hour. You said many, or is it many, many,
my
many,
pen's out of
many?
ink. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
I'm doing that, like, slap it against the table thing. It's.
You're like licking it, rubbing it on your hand.
Do you have another piece of paper? Just sometimes you got to get it started on something. It's not working.
I don't like pencils. I don't know why you keep telling me to get a pencil. I don't like lead. I just don't like it.
You
I don't
got to
like
get a sharpener
I don't like
and
how
like
it
a whole
sounds.
thing.
It has a whole sound scratchy thing. I'm not
It's
crazy
a
about it.
sensory thing. Jesus, literally, you.
Through it. I'm still Lord over the nation. I'm on the throne, and faith in me changes things.
Whenever my dad was on the throne, we weren't supposed to bother him.
I love that at the end of this, he looks at him like he's going to drop that paper. Like he's like, I nailed this. Let's listen to it one more time.
Still Lord over the nation. I'm on the throne, and faith in me changes things.
Glory to God.
Glory to God.
There we go.
So those are two in a row.
Yep. Yeah. First he oiled himself up. Now he's going in dry.
Yeah. And neither of them worked.
Neither of them worked.
Before you jump in here, Tom, you did hear about, Amazon, one of their warehouses became unionized. This last week on The Daily, they did an interview with these two guys that really sort of were the impetus to push this thing over the edge. And really fascinating interview to hear, the ways that they were pushed around, the ways that they were, getting fired, like people were getting fired and, the way that they created community. It was really, really interesting to listen. I would suggest it's about an hour program.
It's a long daily. It's
really interesting program. And that I think that it, you talk about unions. Unions used to be, when I was a kid, unions were it. Like that was the thing. Like if you got a union job was a good job.
Right.
That was a good job. And then there just became this sort of union busting attitude by not just like the higher ups, but people in the middle class thought unions sucked too. They got brainwashed into thinking unions suck.
Yep.
But unions are fucking amazing, powerful forces that can help workers.
Yeah.
And we just lost it in this country.
Yeah. If you look at most of the things that you think about as workplace protections that you rely on every day that you wake up and go to work, unions gave you those things. If you work 5 days and not 7, unions.
40-hour weeks.
If you have the 40, the very idea of time off, then the very idea of paid time off, then the very idea of things like workplace protections so that people who get hurt on the job have recourse.
Yeah.
Unions created, even for the non-unionized. We all have benefited from the cultural and social shifts and changes around the idea of what it means to work and what it means to not work.
Yeah.
Unions were essential for that. And I think there's a sense that now they're like government.
Yeah.
Like the anti-government people tend to also be anti-union, that any sort of conglomerate of people is inherently unjust or inefficient or corrupt.
Yeah.
And that isn't to say that there isn't unjust, inefficient corruption within unions. Like big organizations tend to have people who in power who can abuse those positions of authority and trust. For sure, there have been problems with unions and decisions made by unions, which were not good decisions because people make them. But by and large, if unions were to fucking evaporate tomorrow, there is no reason for us to believe that many of those workplace protections wouldn't immediately begin being chipped away at.
Sure.
Right? Some of them are laws, but laws get reversed, man.
Yeah.
They're not amendments.
It doesn't stay there forever.
Right.
And, when I was a kid growing up, there were plenty of families that if they had a union job, they'd have a union job, that the dad might have a union job. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. And they were able to have a house.
Middle-class family
with one income from a union job. My dad was a truck driver when I was a kid. And he's the only one who worked. My mom stayed home. He was the breadwinner in the family.
Yeah.
He wound up going to work every day. He hurt himself on the job. And one of the reasons why he was able to stay employed as a truck driver for so long, even after he hurt himself and had to take days off and he got workman comp, is because there was a union.
Right.
Without any of that, they would have just fired him. They would have been like, no, who cares? Go away. But because of that, and like my dad had other problems, but I had another friend whose father was a truck driver too. They were a middle-class family. They lived in a nice house in a middle-class suburb growing up. And, for his whole life, he was, he was able to provide for his family with one single job. And that used to be an American reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny that you bring up trucking too, because this last week or the week before, There was a John Oliver. What's it called? What's that show called? Like This Week Tonight or Last Week Tonight or something?
Something like that.
So about trucks and trucking. And it was a fascinating show. But essentially, almost all truckers now are non-unionized. They're independent contractors. And their jobs have been ruined. The trucking industry, like truckers, the attrition rate's 300%. So for every one person that keeps the job in trucking, 3 people have to be hired because they treat these people so fucking
terribly,
awful.
Yeah.
So that is an example of what happens when jobs that have been traditionally protected and unionized and were good jobs, and you did have workplace protections, and you were able to make a living. Now people are barely squeaking by, working their asses off, and being treated like absolute shit because that's the tendency in industry, right?
If they can get away with it, they will.
If every company could classify everybody as an independent contractor tomorrow, they would all do it. Because by doing that, they don't have to pay payroll taxes or benefits or unemployment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They don't have to pay for certain parts of your workday. So, like the protections we all enjoy, whether we're in unions or not, often come from unions. So whether or not we like every union that's out there, whether or not we have access to join a union depending on our work, we should be supportive of unions because the idea of unions and the workplace protections that they fought for, they help all of us. All of our ships rise.
And I will say too, one of the categories of people of industry that deserves unions and should have unions are places where your body is in danger.
Yes, fucking right. Yep.
Those are the ones that need it the most. Those are the ones that need those protections the most. So you're talking about this Amazon thing. Of course they should. These people are worked to death. They're worked so bad. And they even in the story, they go out of their way to say, very much like the trucker thing, their plan is never to let people rise from the inside to management. As a high school graduate, you go there and get a warehouse job, but you'll never get a management job. They would never even consider you. The 300-400 people apply to one job for the management inside, and they probably hire a college graduate from the outside. They expect to lose their turnover, their entire place in like 8 months. They think every 8 months we need a new person in this position,
and they've got no shortage of people to fill those roles,
and they don't care. And while they do pay better than some other places, they're willing to work you and not give you any kind of, there's no workplace protection, right?
Man, do you remember like when we were in college? When we were in college, like the employer that paid the most per hour, and I know you worked there, was UPS.
Yeah.
So when we were in college, we saw all these flyers everywhere. UPS now hiring, and it was just like this is like the 90s, right? So like minimum wage in the 90s when I was, it was like $4 and a quarter, $4.75 at one point. I think
got up to like $5.25, I think, for a bit. Yeah.
And there were like these flyers where like UPS was paying like $12 an hour.
Yeah.
Which was insane. It's like 3 times nobody was making that. And they were paying that because they knew you weren't going to work there very long. They were going to work the absolute dog shit out of you.
Work you like they were going to crush you.
You could treat you like you were a fucking actual machine until they run your fucking knees and back right into the ground.
And they have a union.
Yeah.
And they have a union, right? So, think about that. Think about just that in general. And then there's all these other companies that don't, right? And that's one. Amazon's a perfect example. Truck drivers a perfect example. People who use their bodies to do these things and their bodies wear down quickly and they don't have anything afterwards because they've only trained to do this thing. Right. It's like, that's who needs it. And to shit on unions today, especially in this weird time that we're in where it feels like there is this push to find a work-life balance for everyone. Everyone deserves it. Not just the wealthy, not just the people in the desk jobs. Everybody deserves a work-life balance. And there's something about, I think, the pandemic that tuned everybody up to this. And to lose that now, to pull away and lose that now, it would be a great tragedy.
It would.
Because I think the world needs a work-life balance. Everybody needs a work-life balance. A fucking retail person that you go, that's a high school student, and they hate their job, but they should still have work-life balance.
Yeah, and to be very clear, the push to get people back to work, the push to get people back to the office, and that's very strong right now. I'm reading articles every single morning about this. It's because the longer people experience a work-life balance, the less likely they will be to give it. So we're at an inflection point. We are at a point where one of two things is very likely to happen. One, people will continue to demand some level of work-life balance, and then they will succeed in achieving that. And employers will have to say, okay, you know what? We do have to pay more. We do have to treat people like they're actual fucking human beings and not machines that produce. Or we will lose that fight.
Yeah.
And if we lose that fight, we will lose more than everything we've gained. Because the push on the other side is, that's expensive. We don't want to do it.
Yeah. They know they're going to lose money in it. They know they're going to lose money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about this story. I'm going to call it back up here.
Yep. This story comes from The Guardian. Wealthiest Americans pay just 3.4% of income in taxes, investigation reveals.
This is something from a while ago.
It is.
Yeah. So the ProPublica came out with this a while back.
Yep. So this is, and we've talked about this before, the wealthier you are, the more of your money comes to you not in W-2 form, which is how regular Joes get paid, right?
Yeah.
But it comes to you in different layers of compensation, such as taxes, or not taxes, such as stocks, which are taxed at wildly different rates.
Right.
And not different less. They are taxed at lesser rates. And then the wealthiest Americans also offset their tax burden by strategically offering charitable contributions. So that's an important piece, right? Because at first that sounds great. When you first read that, it's like, well, all right, well, you pay less taxes, but you're giving away like a lot of your money. But they're not. What they're doing is they're giving away a strategic amount of money that moves them into a different bracket. And they understand that because they are able to deduct so many things line item wise off their taxes, that if they can produce enough charitable contributions that they can give, say, I'm going to use figures that are not right. They can give, say, $100,000 and save $1 million by moving from, let's say, a 27% tax bracket to a 19% tax bracket.
Yeah.
So it's a strategic contribution. It's not philanthropy.
Yeah.
That's not philanthropy. They're giving less than the amount that they're saving, because they're not just getting a tax break for what they give, but they're reducing their tax burden to push them in a different bracket. And that's something I hadn't thought about before.
Sure, yeah.
But it's an important strategic element of how the wealthy avoid paying into the kitty and fucking contributing to society.
And that's the problem is that all the regular Joes that have a W-2, they get stuck paying taxes.
Everything.
They get paid taxes. And then if you don't make enough money, you don't pay a lot of taxes, you get those credits back. You still have to pay the taxes, but then you wind up getting money back or credits or whatever. But if you wind up in like the middle portion of society, and and I will be honest, that's not that much money to start owing money on taxes, right? It's not that much money. You have to pull.
You're not
home.
a millionaire.
You're not. You don't have to pull a lot of money home to start owing money on taxes, and then you just work your way up. You know, you could be right out of the poverty line and have to pay taxes.
Yep, absolutely.
So, you know, you could be somebody who's in desperate poverty and it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that goes all the way up to, you know, to sub-millionaires or whatever, you know, people that are rich, you know, quote unquote rich, but they still have to pay because they're getting paid that money through their work.
Right.
But then the moment you get to this point where you don't have to do that, they start borrowing money to live on, and then they don't. They're able to write that off, and there's all these extra crazy like loopholes that basically keep them paying so little in taxes, while the rest of us have to carry their tax burden, and they're the ones who are living literally the greatest lives.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like, that I didn't understand until I was reading up about this sort of stuff is that the ultra wealthy are not sitting on big bank accounts full of cash, right? What they're sitting on is assets, massively valued assets.
Right.
So they don't, I mean, it's not to say they don't have cash, right? But they have these massive assets that sit, and until the moment those assets are liquidated, those assets don't produce a taxable event.
Sure.
But because they have those enormous assets, they're a great collateral to leverage for lending. So then, like, to your point, then they borrow all this money. Well, that's borrowed money. That's not income. That's actually a liability. So then they get a tax break for the liability. But now they have all this money sitting in their account that they use to trickle pay back their loan with the money that they actually borrowed, which they'll just refinance in a handful of years off their assets, which continue to gain interest. And so they're not living a liquid lifestyle. in the same way that you and I are living a liquid lifestyle, yet they still have liquidity, the same way that you and I think of liquidity, meaning they go to Starbucks, they're not worried about buying a latte.
They don't get it for free. It doesn't get comped.
They got to
buy it.
So they've got cash to spend despite not having income the same way we think about income. But it's because they've been clever about gaming a system that literally they built.
Yeah. And that rewards them in every turn.
Right.
And it's also punishing the most vulnerable.
Well, and the government is fucking complicit in this.
Yeah.
This story comes from Bloomberg. Democrats ask the IRS why tax audits for the poor have doubled. So it's not just that the tax audits for the poor have doubled, though they have.
Yeah.
It's that tax audits for the wealthy have halved.
Yeah.
So we are auditing people, and the reason they're doing this is, frankly, because it's fucking easy, right? So the IRS is under strain, like so many other organizations are under strain right now, and they have to produce a certain number of audits, and auditing of taxes that's like some dude with W-2s and that's it is fairly straightforward. And auditing complex taxes of somebody who gets their income from 15 fucking revenue streams and their tax returns, not even 1,000 pages long. Which one are you going to do? If I've got to do 15 fucking audits this month, I'm going to do the 15 easy audits.
Yeah, right.
So poor people are getting fucked, and wealthy people continue to slide under the radar, to cheat on their taxes, and then not to get caught.
Yeah. The longer the audit, the longer the thing. It's like writing a paper that your professor won't read.
Right. Yes. I turned in this paper.
It's a 700-page paper. Well, you get an A.
Right.
Because I ain't reading that.
That looks like you put a lot of A for effort at the very least.
Don't pay me enough for that.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what these people at IRS are thinking. They don't pay me enough for that.
Right.
They don't pay me.
Probably don't.
They don't pay me enough to go hunt down some rando, millionaire's 150-page tax return and try to line item that shit and pay attention to it, when you're absolutely right. When a 1040 EZ is fucking super easy to look at.
Plus,
because it's fucking turbo taxed in.
Right, exactly. Precisely. They do that shit over the mail. They do that shit fairly straightforward. And also that rich guy, as soon as the IRS calls, he's like, I'll talk to my lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I've got to deal with the lawyer and the CPAs and the red tape. And they're going to, fuck, you know what? I'm just going to, I'm going to audit a bunch of people with no fucking resources.
Well, and then they're actually auditing the people that are really, really, they're wind up, these people are like below the poverty line that they're auditing.
Genuinely poor.
Yeah.
Like these are people who just need to be left the fuck alone.
Yeah.
They need to be left the fuck. There's nothing to recoup.
Yeah.
There's no meaningful amount of money to recoup.
It's also one of those things that it feels like, and even if it's not, that's not the motivation, it feels like that old welfare queen idea where you're like, they'll go after the crumbs that someone may have, and I'm not saying that any of these are fraudulent in any way. So don't get me wrong, but it has that feel of I want to find the fraudulent ones, and they'll go after anybody that they think might be fraudulent that is stealing like a crumb.
Right.
While, other people are getting away with not paying any taxes at all, or in fact getting money back when they shouldn't be getting, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Obscene amounts. And you're just like, okay, no, that's fucked up.
Well, I don't remember what the number was, but I remember reading a story this year, as a matter of fact, where the amount of money that wealthy tax cheats owe the taxpayer, owe you, owe me, owe us.
Yeah. I saw that this year too. Yeah. Billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars.
That they consider unrecoupable.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're at a place.
Billions of dollars. Think of how many fucking the school lunch program that got canceled. Right. You could feed every kid in the nation at school if you go after these fat cats.
And all we're doing is asking them to pay what they're supposed to pay.
What they owe.
Thing is, you and I pay what we're supposed to pay.
I have to pay what I owe.
We're just fucking regular Joes. And somebody, and the thing is, if somebody calls you or I, and it's I'm the fucking IRS, I'm like, shit, all right. I'm not getting a lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't have a team of fucking guys to, like you said, bomb them with so much paperwork that it gets held up for years and years and fucking shit. How long has fucking Trump been saying the same thing about I'll release my tax returns when they're done being audited?
Yeah.
Well, it's been 5 years, motherfucker.
He went in and out of the White House and still didn't have to do it.
You and I, it's fucking, they call you on fucking March 3rd. It's fucking done by March 7th.
Yeah, it better be.
Right?
Better fucking be.
It's if you took the weekend off.
So that is going to wrap it up for the video portion of the show. You can check out last week's. Now, we did it last week. We had a lot of fun doing it. I didn't mention on last week's recorded thing, but we did a Potty Awards on our live stream last week, and Tom is holding up his Potty Award. Tom was awarded the best achievement in podcasting. If you want to see his brilliant speech, you need to go check it out on last week's live stream. Of course, you can also check out actually it'd be 2 weeks, because if you're watching this on Monday, it'll be 2 weeks ago, but you can also check out last week's live stream, which we will be doing in 8 minutes. So we want to thank everybody for watching here. While you're here, be sure to subscribe, be sure to like, and, leave a comment below for the algorithm. It's nice to leave comments. That helps us, I guess, get different people to view it. Share these with friends too. Like, these are YouTube videos, and I think people share those, right? So you should. And then, do the thumbs uppy thing, because I think that's really important. All right, that's going to be it for this week. We're going to leave you, like we always do, with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno-Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, watered downward spiral, brain deadpan sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death and towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards, vaccine nuts, shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. Thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive Dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.